Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? This is ZaZa Ali. Today is Thursday, July 21st, 2022. I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. I am doing well. Thank you. Today, my subject is the future belongs to the visionaries. And the goal with this conversation is going to be to inspire us all to aspire to our full potential in terms of creation and in terms of creativity. A few announcements before I get into my subject. You can watch this full 1 hour video by signing up for my membership channel. Hopefully my sound in the background isn't too loud or it's not competing with my voice. But you can watch this full 1 hour video by signing up for my membership channel, or you can access it on demand. You can check the description for the links to do both of those things. Also, I've written 4 metaphysics workbooks and 2 books, The Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs and Plagues of Dysfunction. I've also written an ebook, Practical Steps to Health and Well-Being. The link in the description to access all of that information is there. Also, I'm working on my newest book, Ancient People, a History and Social Studies textbook, and I will be offering that available for pre-orders very soon. I will be speaking in LA, Saturday, August the 20th, 2022, which also happens to be numerically the number 88. My subject my subject is Illuminati 2.0, a divine new world order. We are taking back all spiritual and righteous concepts, and both of those, Illuminati or the Illuminati, as well as the New World Order, those are both concepts that are being misused and misinterpreted, or not misinterpreted, but definitely misused in this hour. And so we are taking a righteous, powerful position to take back all divine, spiritual, and righteous concepts back. I'll be speaking at in Brooklyn at Nicholas Bookstore, Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Flyers and ticket information for that will be coming soon. Also, tickets are available for the LA event Saturday, August the 20th. I don't know if I said that, but they are available for purchase on my website. Flyers and ticket information for the Brooklyn speaking engagement will be coming soon. And the Atlanta date is potentially October the 2nd, still pending. All tickets to purchase or to access or to come to any of my events are only available at zazaali.com. So no Eventbrite, no, you know what I mean? No Tower Records. Oh, I'm dating myself, who used to have to go to Tower Records to get tickets for Ticketmaster. But also on my site, there are workshops and courses and information about working with me in a one-on-one capacity. As always, thank you to those who purchase my books, support my content, come to my events, send love offerings or financial contributions, which I don't consider donations. It's not a donation if you get something in return. But I love and appreciate you guys so much. You make what I'm doing possible, or no, you don't make it possible, but you do contribute to the manifestation of my vision and goals for myself and for my future. And so that really means a lot. And especially in terms of what we're talking about today, you know, a lot of what I'm doing, even this ancient people textbook right now, this is something that I've been wanting to do for like the past 10 years. My vision of it was different. I was going to write like a textbook for a school level, you know, academic level textbook, and encompass, you know, a very large array of history. And I'm still doing that now, but instead of me doing it all in one whop, I'm breaking it down into volumes. So I'm very excited about that. So everything that you guys contribute to my work supports my visions and goals for my future. All right, so this particular subject today, the future belongs to the visionaries. I was taking notes taking notes and also referencing some books and different things that I'm going to share with you guys today. And this concept, the thought occurred to me because creation and creativity kept coming up in these different, you know, in my research or in my the different things that I was kind of writing down or leaning into in the books of other people, which, by the way, I think the fact that I always, when I do these videos, reference other great minds, such as Greg Braden, such as, who am I going to reference today? Neville Goddard, Deepak Chopra, and Catherine Ponder, among other people, really underscores the intention. And I'm going to talk about attention versus intention, but the intention of my videos, right? So I hopefully it's very clear for you guys, especially when coming from the spiritual vantage point, that my platform is not about ego. And it's not about, the me factor or how intelligent or wise I am or why you should follow me or why I have the answers. Because I am trying to lead you to truth, not to me, right? But in going through my notes and kind of preparing for this today, the concept of creation and creativity kept coming up, right? So the definition of creation is the action, or one of the definitions, I should say, the action or process of bringing something into existence, or the bringing into of existence of the universe, especially regarded as an act of God. And then you have creativity, the use of the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. So you have creation, and then you have creativity, and then you have creating. And all three of these words and the root aspect of these words are all about creating something from nothing, which is actually what the whole theory of evolution is. It's also we talk about the mind being all, or we live in a mental universe, meaning something had to be sparked within the mind, within the thought process, in order for it to come to be. And that makes sense when we think about that on a human level, because we've all experienced that, wanted something so bad, or wanted someone so bad, or wanted an experience so bad that we willed it into existence, right? Through our imaginations and through our consciousness. So creation versus creativity versus creating. It's interesting to me that the whole concept of creation started from, is based out of creating something from nothing. And then the whole concept of creativity is the use of the imagination or original ideas, hence, and then especially in the production of an artistic work. And I really, when I thought about that, it made me think about how artists are sort of prized in one way, or revered in one way, in terms of being able to just completely dedicate themselves artistically, right? So being able to close yourself in your studio and just paint until your heart, until you fulfill your heart's desire, right? But that type of intentional or zoned out focus isn't really applied in the average person's life. And then we also think about artists in terms of the starving artist. There's this whole moniker that comes with that, right? Yeah, you can live your passions, you can follow your dreams, you can dive, 1,000 feet off the edge of life, the cliff of life, right? In order to fulfill your passions, but you won't really make any money from it. Even poets, right? Even people who are writers, authors, especially in this day and time, like writing is not really a highly appreciated and valued commodity or a level of artistry. And I'm saying that as a writer, right? Understanding, when you can read a person's words and being able to, because they're basically reading your mind, and be able to have a sort of energetic resonance of truth, where something you say enlightens or wakes something up in another person's mind, or just gives them clarity. That's a whole energetic transmutation. Sometimes it happens through reading a person's words. Sometimes it happens through hearing words in a song. Sometimes it happens from hearing a public speech, sitting in an audience and hearing another speaker, and it be so profound and so powerful that it wakes something up in you. So I want to talk about, because we talk about dimensions of consciousness, and I've even done 2 videos, Dimensions of Consciousness. Part 1 is on YouTube. A clip of it is on part 1 on YouTube, and then part 2 is just up in the private membership channel. But I realized today in my notes that I didn't really go into what dimensions is in those videos. And because I'm going to continue talking about dimensions of consciousness moving forward, but I'm also going to talk about dimensions, in particular, the 5th dimension, that whole concept that everybody is, kind of talking about now, this new age, this new spiritual based reality, this new shift in consciousness and awareness, right? Where human beings are going to be operating at this sort of superhero type level, which I 100% can resonate with and I'm looking forward to. And I say that not just because, it's sort of an in vogue thing to say right now, right? Everybody's talking about it in the metaphysics or in the spiritual culture. My take on it is a little bit different, because a lot of people in the spiritual culture are not really talking about the what's happening in the background of our reality right now, right? In terms of this broader agenda, in terms of the medical and the scientific and the digital and the financial and the economic, like all these very serious and potentially dangerous things that are happening in the background. Well, a lot of people in the spiritual community aren't talking about that. And I think it's doing a major hindrance to their audience and to the broader consciousness. Not because I want people to be afraid. This is not about being afraid. This is about being knowledgeable and being aware and being conscientious about what's happening around you. That's why we're here in 3rd dimensional reality. We could have escaped having to deal with, the difficult pain and stress and suffering of the world before we came here by not coming here. But we came here at this specific time for specific reasons, right? So, but my point is, the super being is going to be shaped and formed, super being or the reality of 5th dimensional reality, those 2 things really being cohesive, if you understand what that means. The super being is being shaped through the pressure and the difficulties of these times, because the super beings are going to understand that the internal focus, the internal vision, and the internal compass is going to be the key to setting up the kingdom of God, or this concept of 5th dimensional reality. So the dimensions are defined as, and this is dimensions can be applied to science, dimensions can be applied to mathematics. Those are really where the concepts were sort of defined. But it can also be in terms of consciousness, which we've been talking about, and in terms of spirituality, right? So the dimensions are different facets of what we perceive to be reality. Dimensions are also considered or ranked, or defined based on measurement. Most common to all 3 dimensions is length, width, and depth of all objects in our universe. The first dimension is length. And you can imagine a straight line to determine length, right? A ruler determines, point A to point B. So that is a very specific straight line. Everybody can identify that in their mind's eye, right? The second dimension is height, or those 2 together make a 2-dimensional shape. So length plus height equals 2 dimensions. Height on its own is 1 dimension. I'm sorry, no, height on its own is not 2 dimensions. Height plus length is 2 dimensions. The second dimension is height, and those 2 together make a 2-dimensional shape. The third dimension is depth. Cube, for instance, a cube, would represent 3rd dimensional. For length, width, plus depth equals volume. And so you can think of a cube, but you can also think of each of us as a physical individual human being, right? There's obviously way more to it than that, but we in this physical realm represent third dimensional reality, or length, width, and depth equaling volume. The fourth dimension has been identified by scientists and even by physics as time. And this governs the property of all known matter at any given point. And the idea of time representing the fourth dimension is going to be varied depending on if you're talking to or listening to a physicist or a scientist or a mathematician or a spiritual person, right? So that adds even more dimensions of layers, and all of them can be right. You know what I'm saying? That's why this web of energy and this infinite consciousness, right, is important to start understanding from a spiritual level and how it actually applies to our personal lives, because there's the macro and then there's the micro. The fifth dimension, wait, let me go back to my notes. Okay, the fifth dimension is the space and plane where spiritual phenomena take place. And, you know, I've been talking about the participatory universe, right? And all things being connected. So the elevation is about reconnecting to the source, which is the all. The fifth dimensional reality can't be observed in a physical or a tangible or direct manner. The fifth dimension is where it is said that the forces of gravity and electromagnetism meet, which is out of bounds of human sight, but it still exists. Locked in and ruled by third dimensional standards, the fifth dimension will be spiritual standards, or spiritually based, and have spiritual standards, which are limitless. The first three dimensions can be observed simply by looking at an object or measuring it to be precise in the amount of height, width, and depth it sports. The fourth dimension can easily be observed if an object moves in front of our eyes. Though time itself cannot be viewed or be perceived, the distance that an object covers in a certain amount of time gives us an idea about this dimension as well. So in talking about the fifth dimension, right, you know, the concept of be as it is, be and it is. If you think about that simple subject that we all know, that we all have been, you know, sort of seeing, maybe some of us have been realizing and experiencing that, right? But it's a concept that's as old as time, because that's exactly what time reflects. Be and it is the movement of the time it takes to move from point A to point B. That's what time is, just a measurement, right? But it's also, when we talk about, and this is going into like the evolution of consciousness, right? That original Big Bang theory. The thought had to precede the actual manifestation, whatever that first manifestation looked like. If it was a burst, if it was a, you know, a slow rolling process, there had to be a thought that preceded the physical manifestation, right? And so moving into fifth dimensional reality, we're getting ready to develop, through the pressure and the struggle and the difficulty of these times, as well as spiritual downloads through different solar, the solar communication that the sun is having right now in and through our planet, as well as the, you know, the different prophecies that were to be fulfilled at this time, as well as the astrological and astronomical prophecies or alignment, I should say, that are taking place on the micro and the macro level, right? As well as the unveiling of technology and the evolving of technology. Because as human beings continue to expand technology, and now we have a very large segment of the human population that is now being manipulated and targeted, deceived, and harmed by way of technology. And it's not just the Jim Jones juice. It's also the social media. It's also the, excuse me, the towers and the Wi-Fi routers, right? The electromagnetic radiation from the phones, right? So there's a lot of, even with dimensions of consciousness, there's a lot of dimensions of, in terms of technology, right? It being a mental space. Now they're bridging the gap between the mental space and the physical space through metaverse and goggles, right? So I don't want to get too far off my point here and make sure that I stay on topic. So in The Complete Reader by Neville Goddard, and I'm going to quote a couple of paragraphs from here because it's spot on in terms of what this point that I'm trying to make. I also have been and going to continue to be uploading different clips in the membership channel of Neville Goddard, as well as other great minds, content that I think really kind of underscores the points that I make in these videos. And so I have a specific clip that I'm going to upload of Neville Goddard where he's really kind of honing in on techniques that you can use in order to really hone in on and fine tune your imagination through meditation, etc. So quote, "And now I have told you before it is come to pass, that when it comes to pass, ye might believe." He's quoting, or he's referencing John chapter 14, verse 29. "Many persons, myself included, have observed events before they occurred. That is, before they occurred in this world of third dimensions. Since man can observe an event before it occurs in the three dimensions of space, life on earth must proceed according to plan. And this plan must exist somewhere in another dimension and be slowly moving through our space. If the occurring events were not in the world when they were observed, then to be perfectly logical, they must have been out of this world. And whatever is there to be seen before it occurs here must be predetermined from the point of view of man awake in the third dimensional world. Thus the question arises, are we able to alter our future? The most remarkable feature of man's future is his flexibility. It is determined by his attitudes rather than by his acts. The cornerstone from which all things are based is man's concept of self. He acts as he does and has the experience that he does because his concept of himself is what it is and for no other reason. A change of concept of self automatically alters his future." And notice he says here, it is determined, the most remarkable feature of man's future is his flexibility. It is determined by his attitudes rather than his acts. And just to kind of underscore that, we have this kind of unwritten, sort of rule in American culture in particular, that, hard work pays off, and the harder you work, that's the key to success. But we know that's not true because the people that work the hardest have the least. So the ones that have the most success are the ones that have the most predetermined will. The ones that are locked in on the vision, that are locked in on the dream, right? And that hold it so strong and so deep and so dear in their minds that it actually has no choice but to present itself in third dimensional reality. And this is why, we say nice guys finish last, or the bad guys always, make it to the top. Why is it that, the good guys finish last? Well, it's because the good guys don't have, and only in terms of this, this saying, it's because, let me just say this, the bad guys, the universe is no respecter of persons. So if the bad guy, quote unquote, is 1000% honed in, locked in, focused in on his vision and his dream, the universe is going to supplement, complement, and move heaven and earth to make sure that the bad guy realizes his manifestation. Not because it's supporting evil or wickedness or whatever, this person's character is, but because it's matching the emphasis and will and determination of the mind's eye vision. And it's also, now the balance is, the law of compensation, going back to that, the Kabbalion, the law of compensation is always going to dictate this person has been 1000% intentional and focused in terms of business success. Just for an example, those people usually fall short in matters of love.